Hi there guys, Joel here from Aussie Chart Trends. Today's update is for Thursday the 7th of March 2013. We're going to check the S&P out and the Asx200. Before we get into Thursday's update, we just need to remind you that the website and the video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as any form of investment advice. I'm not a licensed professional. You need to make your own decisions regarding your investments. I'm just here to help anyone searching for a practical direction in today's markets. So firstly, looking here at the Smp500 on a 5-minute chart, so each candlestick here represents 5 minutes of trade. You'll notice that we've got two new lines that are drawn here on the chart. Now the previous lines that we had drawn yesterday was these two lines here. We seen yesterday's trade, a nice gap up, and then the market slowly came down in what appeared to be a bull flag pattern. I'll just delete these two lines here. That we aren't in a little bull flag pattern, we're in a flag pattern. So that's where we see that the market rise up and then create this little flag pattern here. So flag patterns can either break to the upside or to the downside. Now we haven't seen a back test on our neckline, and that neckline is down here. In fact, I'll just change the color of that to blue. So this blue neckline here is around that 1525, 1526 level. If we can come back down to backtest this area, that would be fantastic. But if we don't see that move to the downside, well, we still have a target in play of our inverted head and shoulders pattern of around that 1564 area. But if we take a look on the 30-minute chart, you'll notice I've got a couple of other lines drawn here. And that's just a trend line that's being brought up from the bottom of the head of this inverted head and shoulders pattern. Now I've brought that out underneath the right shoulder and I've just extended it out, and you'll notice I've also drawn this line here above the left shoulder, and I've just brought that out to where we found resistance in last night's trade. And the interesting thing is it appears that we are in a rising wedge pattern. Now, sometimes inverted head and shoulders patterns can create a rising wedge pattern. That's where we see an eventual move up, and you'll see a break of this bottom channel line and a move back down to where the rising wedge actually began. Now, in some cases, after breaking a rising wedge pattern, you'd have an initial sell-off and then a back test on this line somewhere at a higher point before heading back down. Now, interestingly enough, the target to this pattern kind of meets at the apex of this rising wedge pattern. And the fact that the S&P has rallied up within 2 days, or up over 15 points, maybe we're due for a bit of a sell-off back down to the neckline, see a break to the upside, and see more buying pressure kick in. By Friday's trade, we should know whether the market is going to break down or whether we're going to see that eventual move up to get on our way up to our expected target around that 1564 area. Alright, let's take a look now at the Asx200. Okay, looking here at the hourly chart of the Asx200, I've got a chart up here going all the way back to July of 2012, where we first started to see this rally up, and you'll notice there's this trend line here that I've got drawn on the chart. Now guys, I never thought that we would get over this trend line because this line is already at a diagonal rate of ascent, and you wouldn't think that we would get over this area. But as you can see, the Asx200 has had a lot of steam to the upside, and we broke through this area after 3 or 4 attempts, and we just came up within this blue channel that we've been watching since November of 2012. And we eventually seen a break last Thursday week when we watched the markets come down to backtest this orangey browny line. Now that line goes back to the highs that we seen in April of 2011. Now that dates back to April 11th of 2011, and last time we got up to that area we had a pretty big correction. So guys, the fact that we've got over this area is a sign of strength. The fact that we've backtested this area is a very strong sign of strength, and we've actually backtested this area twice now and we've sort of hovered on up, but you can sort of see we're at this point where there's a lot of indecision in the market, and one would think at this stage that, you know, maybe a correction is just around the corner. And there's definitely a 50-50 psychology going on here as to whether to sell or to buy back in. It's not uncommon when you've seen a 20% rise in the Asx200 that we would at least come down for a pullback or a correction. Now, we haven't formed a top yet, but I think it's wise to just be a little bit alert at the moment, because I think with the S&P, we're starting to create a top there in that market, and I think potentially we're going to be forming some sort of top fairly shortly with this market. If anything, it looks as if that we've created a left shoulder here, and maybe we're potentially working on a head right now to even a larger head and shoulders top. And we may get up to that target of around that 5,240, 5,250 area before topping out and coming down in April. There was actually a news article that I read today, and I'd like to share it with you. It's from news.com.au, and it's just saying here simply that the share market reaches highest level in nearly 5 years. I seen on last night's news that everyone's been ultra positive about the stock market, and it's when every last cent gets put into the stock market, that's when we see a corrective move to the downside. So I just thought I'd share that with you. In tomorrow's trade, whether we can get over this 5,120 level and close above it, and even if we could take out the last highs that we've seen over here around that 5,135 level. Alright guys, I'll be back on Saturday for the weekly review. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys then.